Hello, you've come on a very special night, because tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. What is Hanukkah, you ask? Well, we'll get to that in a moment, but first, let me introduce tonight's story. This story is called Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins by Eric A. Kimmel. Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins, written by Eric A. Kimmel, illustrated by Trina Shart Hyman, and it was published by Holiday House, New York. Now, before we begin, I will tell you about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a holiday that celebrates freedom. More than 2,000 years ago, the land of Israel was ruled by Syrians. The Syrians would not allow the Jews to worship as they wanted. But in 164 BC, which means that Hanukkah is just a little older than Christmas, a small band of Jewish soldiers defeated the Syrian army. Then they rebuilt and cleaned the temple. When they tried to relight the menorah, however, they found only a tiny bit of pure oil. It was enough to last for just one day, but by some miracle, the oil burned for 8 days. And a menorah is a candle holder with 8 branches. One candle is lit the first night, 2 the second, 3 the third, and so on, till the 8th night when all the candles are lit. The candles may not be used for any other purpose, not even to light other candles. For this reason, an extra candle, called a shamas, or servant candle, is lit first and used to light the others. Once lit, the Hanukkah candles may not be blown out. They must be allowed to burn down completely. The candles usually burn out within an hour and are replaced each night. And here is our menorah, and it has 8 places for 8 candles, but there is only one candle, this blue candle here, because this is the first night. Tomorrow there would be another candle here for the second night. And this candle here is the shamas candle. And I am actually not sure if this candle should go over here. I think that's correct. Excuse me for misplacing the candle. And now, let's get to the story finally. It was the first night of Hanukkah. Hershel of Ostropol, and Ostropol is a city in Ukraine, so Hershel's from Eastern Europe, was walking down the road. He was tired and hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village, where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. And a potato latke is a potato fritter. It's like a tater tot or a hash brown, eaten on Hanukkah. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be seen. And there is Hershel of Ostropol walking through the snow and the snowstorm on this hill. And here is the village down below in the valley, and it's all dark, and it looks like everyone's gone to bed because there's no lights. Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah? Hershel asked the villagers. We don't have Hanukkah, Hershel, one of them answered sadly. No Hanukkah? How can that be? It's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. A synagogue is a little bit like a church for people who practice the Jewish religion. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we try to light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. Those wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long. But on Hanukkah, it's really bad. Hershel knew he must help the village people. I'm not afraid of goblins, he said. Tell me how to get rid of them. It's not as easy as you think, the rabbi warned. You must spend 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. On the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. That is the only way to break their power. I'm not afraid, Rabbi, Hershel said. If I can't outwit the few goblins, then my name isn't Hershel of Osterpol. And there is Hershel speaking to the rabbi. And all the people in the village have gathered around to listen. And there's this little boy here who's looking at us, and he has this grin like he knows something that we don't. And there's this young maiden looking sadly at us. There's this woman over here looking at us like she's up to something. Everybody else looks afraid, except for this lady who looks like she's angry at the man bringing eggs. The villagers wished Hershel good luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so they packed several hard-boiled eggs for him to eat, along with a big jar of pickles. So that must be why that man is carrying those eggs, because those are for Hershel. The rabbi gave Hershel a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. Nobody expected to see Hershel again. It was long past sundown by the time Hershel climbed to the top of the hill where the old synagogue stood. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and its rusty hinges squealed as Hershel opened the door. Hershel shuddered. Well, could he believe that goblins lived here? He put 2 candles in the menorah and set it on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the shamas candle, which is the candle on top. He said the blessings and was about to light the other candle when he heard a voice. Hey, what are you doing? Hershel turned around. Here was a goblin, no bigger than a horsefly, with long pointy tail and two little bat's wings hovering in the air. "I'm lighting Hanukkah candles," Hershel said. "Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah." And there is Hershel next to the windowsill of the old synagogue, and he's lit the Hanukkah candles, and he's talking to the teeny tiny goblin that we can't see just yet. And down in the village, everybody is going to bed. They said goodbye to Hershel, and they don't think they'll see him again. It's a long way up from the village to the synagogue.
"Oh, no, it's not. We don't allow Hanukkah. Not around here."
"Is that so?" said Hershel. "Who's going to stop me? A little pipsqueak like you?"
"I may be little, but I'm strong,"
said the goblin. "Really? Can you crush rocks in your hand?" asked Hershel. The goblin laughed.
"Crush rocks? You're joking. Nobody's that strong."
"I am. Watch!" Hershel took a hard-boiled egg from his pocket and squeezed it until the yolk and the white ran through his fingers. "That's how hard I'm going to squeeze you if you try to stop me from lighting these candles." The little goblin's eyes opened wide. Since in the dim light, the egg looked exactly like a rock. The little goblin shook with fear.
"Ah! You leave me alone!" he squeaked.
"Gladly," said Hershel, "if you let me light my candles in peace."
"All right," said the goblin. "One night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Big, scary goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting Hanukkah candles, you'll be sorry."
"We'll see about that," Hershel said to himself. He lit the first candle. And there is Hershel crushing an egg in his hands. And I don't think that was a hard-boiled egg, because hard-boiled eggs, the yolks are cooked and they're firm. I think that was a soft-boiled egg, because soft-boiled eggs have a runny yolk. And there is the little itsy-bitsy goblin who's watching in terror and biting his fingers. And behind them is the lit menorah with one candle for the first night, just like tonight. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was big and fat and waddled like a goose. Hershel was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. "Have some pickles," he said to the goblin. "Pickles? Here, catch!" Hershel tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth and swallowed it. "Oh! Pickles are good. Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar. Take all you want." The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold. But when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. "I'm stuck!" the goblin shouted. "You put a spell on
this jar to hold me fast.
That's right, Hershel said, laughing. And it's a very powerful spell. You came here tonight to stop me from lighting Hanukkah candles, so now I am going to light them while you stand with your hand in that jar and watch. How do you like that?
No!
The goblin screamed.
I hate Hanukkah!
And there is Hershel having his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs, and he has a candle on the table. But that candle is not in the menorah, so it's not the Hanukkah candle, because remember, the Hanukkah candles can't be used for anything else. And there is the green, greedy goblin, and he's got a tail like a devil, and he's got spines on his back like a dragon, and his hands look like chicken feet, and his feet look like chicken feet, and he's got a huge nose and a big tongue, and he's got a belly as big as he is, and his belly is so big that his belly button is bulging out. And he got his hand stuck in the jar of pickles. Too bad, you'll have to get used to it, Hershel said. Hershel said the blessings and lit the candles slowly. Then he sang all his favorite Hanukkah songs. On Hanukkah, we light the menorah. The goblin wailed and carried on so much that Hershel finally decided to let him go. Shall I tell you how to break the spell?
Yes, I can't stand it anymore.
Let go of the pickles. Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner. The goblin let go of the pickles. His hand slipped out of the jar easily. How that goblin raged! He had stood with his hand in a pickle jar while Hershel lit Hanukkah candles under his nose. The furious goblin stamped his foot so hard that he smashed into 1,000,000 pieces. And then the wind blew them away. And there is the angry goblin with his hands stuck in the jar because he wanted every single pickle. And if you've ever stuck your hand in a jar and tried to grab everything in the jar, you know you can't pull everything out of the jar. Not at once. And there is Hershel with a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eye, and he's got the used match. And he's singing his favorite songs, and the menorah has been lit behind him, and the goblin couldn't do anything about it. And on the next page are the pieces of the goblin blowing out the open door. The third night came. Hershel felt something watching him as he set the candles in the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he began playing with the dreidel. And I'd like to take a moment to pause here and show you what a dreidel is. This is our dreidel. And the book has a handy explanation of what dreidels are in the back. I will read to you. The dreidel is a square-shaped top. It has one of the Hebrew letters, Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin on each of its 4 sides. The letters stand for the words Nez Gadol Hayasham. A great miracle happened there. The dreidel game is played with nuts, raisins, or pennies. Everyone puts a piece in the center of the table or floor, then one player spins the dreidel. If none comes up, nothing happens. Gimel, the spinner, takes the center. Hey, the spinner takes half. And Shin, the spinner adds a nut to the center. These are the usual rules. So now I'll show you the letters on the dreidel. This is the letter Gimel, which means you take everything. This is the letter Nun, which means nothing happens. This is the letter Shin, which means the spinner has to lose one of their treasures. And this is the letter Hey, which means you take half. An hour passed. Hershel looked up. Sitting across the table was another goblin. This one had a fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. "It's getting late," the goblin said. "When are you going to light the candles?" "Later, there's plenty of time." Hershel spun his dreidel. "This is more fun." "What are you playing with?" the goblin asked. "It looks like a top." "It's a dreidel. Don't you know about dreidels?" "No." "Too bad. Dreidels are lots of fun. You can make lots of money if you know how to play." "Really?" The goblin was interested now. All goblins like money. This one was no exception. "How do you play?" "It's very simple," Hershel said. "But you must have gold. That's the first rule." "I have plenty. Is this enough?" The goblin poured a pile of gold coins onto the table. This is what we call Hanukkah gelt, because today we don't play with nuts or raisins. We play with chocolate coins wrapped in gold foil. So this will be our goblin gold. And here is the goblin with the fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. And he's got pretty big wings too. And his nose is covered in lots of noses. There is Hershel sitting across from him at the table with the dreidel. And underneath the table is a cunning-looking snake, which I think is the goblin's tail. I hope Hershel knows that there is a snake under the table. I hope he doesn't get bitten. The goblin is pouring out his gold. "That's fine," Hershel said. "Listen carefully now. This letter is Shin. If it comes up, you give me a handful of gold. This letter is Hey. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. If it comes, this is Gimel. If the dreidel falls on this letter, You give me all your gold, understand? I don't think those are the right rules. Wait, there's one letter left. What about this one? That's none. If the dreidel falls on none, I don't give you anything. Ready? Let's play. You go first. I think Hershel's cheating. The goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled around and around. When it fell, the letter on top was Shin. Too bad, Hershel said, taking a big handful of the goblin's gold. Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck. The goblin spun the dreidel once more. It's a long spin. The goblin spun the dreidel once more. This time it fell on hay. This isn't your night, Hershel said, helping himself to half the goblin's gold. One more time, your luck is bound to improve. Once again, the goblin spun. This time, the dreidel landed on Gimel. Too bad, Hershel sighed as he took the rest of the goblin's gold. Would you like me to spin? And there's Hershel with a smug look on his face because he rigged the game so the goblin couldn't possibly win. And there's the goblin's dwindling pile of gold. And over here, Hershel has quite an impressive stack of gold, which is what happens when you rig the rules. And over the goblin's shoulder, the snake seems kind of interested in the game, but I don't think the snake has realized that the goblin can't possibly win. In between them is the spinning dreidel. Hershel offered to spin. Yes, the goblin grumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. Hershel spun the dreidel. This time, the letter none was on top. Oh my, I don't give you anything. I get to keep all the gold. Say, that was fun. Get some more gold and we'll play again. What about the Hanukkah candles? We'll light them later. There's plenty of time. Not for me, the goblin said. I'm leaving. I don't like this game. I don't like Hanukkah. And I don't like you. Don't go, Hershel pleaded. I know lots of games. Stay a while. We'll have fun. Goodbye. The goblin spread his wings, swooped out the door, and flew off into the night. Hershel lit the candles all by himself. And there is Hershel lighting the 3 candles because it's the 3rd night of Hanukkah. And there is Hershel's stolen pile of gold on the table that he cheated to win. And there is the goblin flying out the door, and it looks like the goblin's wings are a little too big. And the snake is hissing at Hershel. Maybe the snake figured out that Hershel cheated. And the goblin left so quickly that he knocked his chair over. On the following nights, other goblins came. One had 6 heads. One had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared, "Roar!" and changed themselves into horrible shapes. They tried to stop Hershel from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but Hershel fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night arrived. 8 tiny candles flickered on the windowsill because one is the shamus candle. So on the last night there'd be 9. Hershel sat back to enjoy their light. Where were the goblins? Had they finally given up? Hershel felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. Suddenly, he sat up. He heard a horrible sound, a voice that sounded like the cracking of bones.
Happy Hanukkah, Hershel of Ostropol.
And there, in the picture, are the other goblins who visited Hershel and growled and roared and changed themselves into horrible shapes. And this is the one that has 3 eyes and it's got sharp teeth. And this one has 6 heads and it looks like the heads are zombie heads. And there's other goblins flying through the air. And here is the old synagogue where Hershel was staying. Each goblin came at sunset. But this is the second to last night, and no goblin showed up except an awful voice. What happens next? Who is it? Who's there?
Don't you know who I am? Hershel, weren't you expecting the king of the goblins?
The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof and shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reeled in the savage blast, but they did not go out. "You're too early!" Hershel shrieked. "You're not supposed to come until tomorrow!" The great wind died down.
Don't worry, Hershel. I am far away, but I have the power to see you and speak to you. Enjoy this Hanukkah evening, my friend. It will be your last. Tomorrow night, I will come for you. You fooled my slaves, the other goblins. Let's see if you can fool me.
Poor Hershel! What was he to do? The king of the goblins was on his way, and no power on earth could stop him. Unless Hershel had an idea. It was a big chance, but he had to take it. It was the only way to save himself and Hanukkah. What do you think that idea is? Remember, the rabbi said that the king of the goblins has to light the candles himself. How do you think Hershel will get him to do that? Here in the picture is the window being shattered by the voice of the king of the goblins, and the candles are all bent over from the force of the winds, and glass is flying. Hershel is screaming in terror, and his hat's been blown off, and over here the jar of pickles got knocked over, and there's some of those gold coins that Hershel cheated to win flying through the air too. It was the last night of Hanukkah. Hershel set the candles in the menorah, but instead of placing it on the windowsill, he put the menorah and the box of matches on a small table near the door. Then he sat down to wait. Night fell. It grew dark as pitch inside the gloomy old synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped through the synagogue and tore the door from its hinges. Whoosh! The whole building shook. A fearsome voice spoke.
Hershel of Ostropol!
Did I hear something?
It is I, the king of the goblins!
Hershel laughed. Don't be silly. You're one of the boys from the village. You're trying to scare me.
I am not a boy. I am the king of the goblins.
I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me.
Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe me now?
Hershel tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of a monstrous shape filling the doorway. A figure too horrible to describe. He pretended not to care. There is Hershel, sitting in the darkness, with the table by the door that has the menorah with 9 candles all unlit. And there, in the doorway, is the king of the goblins, who's a frightening creature the size of a tree, but he has giant bat wings and a thorny head. Maybe he has spikes on his head or a giant crown. And he has 2 evil red eyes glowing in the darkness. And his shadow stretches all the way across the synagogue floor. It's too dark. I can't see anything. A candlestick and some matches are by the doorway. Why don't you light a few candles? Then I'll be able to see who you really are.
Indeed, you shall.
A match flared. The shaman's candle caught the flame. Hershel's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him. But he did not lose courage. Master of the world, he silently prayed, thou who created the heavens and the earth and the spirits of the air, stand by me now. Then he addressed the goblin. It's still too dark. What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles. Why not light them all? A hideous hand took the shamus candle and lit the others one by one. Hershel felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught the flame. 6, 7, 8. The king of the goblins stood before him.
Now, Hershel, do you know who I am?
I know you're not Queen Esther.
Very funny. Enjoy the joke. It will be your last.
And there is Hershel with his mouth open in terror as he's staring up into the frightening face of the king of the goblins, who we can't see, but we see this black, bony, skeletal, clawed hand holding the shamus candle and lighting all of the other candles on the menorah. And all 7 are lit in this picture, with the 8th unlit, but apparently the king lit every last one. Uh-oh. That's what you think. Begone, or I'll take a stick to you.
How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way?
I'll speak to you any way I please. You have no power. Your spell is broken. See? The menorah candles are the candles you were lighting. You thought those were ordinary candles. They weren't. They were the Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself. The king of the goblins roared with fury.
Ah!
The earth trembled, and a mighty wind arose. It ripped the roof off the synagogue and blew it down and blew down the walls. It splintered the great timbers and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah, the whirlwind howled, but the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flames. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah had triumphed. And there is the king of the goblins being banished. And as he's banished, he's broken the synagogue, and the walls are being carried off in the wind, and stones are being flung, and splintering timbers of the building are being dashed down the hill. And once again, the jar of pickles has been knocked over, and there are a couple of the gold coins that it looks like those will be lost forever. Most importantly, there on the very top of the hill is Hershel bent over in prayer next to the Hanukkah candles, which, because the spell was broken, because the king of the goblins lit the candles on the menorah himself, those candles were not harmed by the great winds, because the spirit of Hanukkah had prevailed. The great wind vanished as suddenly as it had arisen. Hershel rubbed his eyes. The night was as still as before, even though the synagogue was gone. Walls, floor, roof, even the foundation and stones had vanished. But the menorah remained, standing tall upon the little table where Hershel had placed it. Hershel waited until the last candle burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. "I'd better hurry," he thought. "I don't want to miss the last night of Hanukkah." But there was no reason to worry. In every window there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. There is Hershel with his hands behind his back, watching the candles on the menorah burn all the way down. And it looks like they burned down pretty far in the picture. But down below, all the windows in the village are lit up, and all the people have gathered, and they're looking up at the hill, waiting for Hershel, who will no doubt receive a hero's welcome, because he saved the village from the Hanukkah goblins by getting the king of the goblins to light the menorah himself. And that is the end of the story. And I think that the meaning of the story is that even when people try to control the way that others worship, or monsters in the case of the story, the power of faith is much stronger than any rules imposed by monsters or people on others. Also, the king of the goblins was so caught up in his frightening appearance and so interested in scaring Hershel that he didn't notice he was lighting the menorah. And now that the goblins are gone, I think it's time that we lit the menorah and said the blessings. Would you like to join us? So I will light the match here. And I must first light the shamus candle. And the shamus candle lights the other candle. And it goes back in its place at the top of the menorah. And then we say the blessings. The first blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kirishanu b'mitzvotzav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. But we usually sing it. And it sounds like Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotzav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. And that blessing is, Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sacrificed us by thy commandments and instructed us to kindle the lights of Hanukkah. And the second blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam she'asa nis'im lavoteinu bayanim hahem bazman hazeh. And that is, Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has performed miracles for our ancestors in days of old at this season. And the last blessing we say only on the first night of Hanukkah, which is tonight, and that is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam shehe'iyanu V'ke'imanu, v'higianu, lazman hazeh. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us in life, preserved us, and enabled us to reach this season. Thank you very much for joining me for the first night of Hanukkah and listening to the story of Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins. And if Hanukkah is not your holiday will be coming very soon. Happy holidays.